Probably my favorite part is specking out ARMs. I came here to get more blood runes, as this is a great place to obtain a lot of them. Even though I have to use blood runes to get blood runes. It definitely helps that I have the hard Mauritania diaries done, as it will give you bonus runes in the Barrows chests. This hilt, it allows you to negate all of the prayer drain mechanics. You can see that base that just came up. Normally that would drain like 10 prayer points every time. So this item really helps. I have every piece of the Barrows gear on this Iron Man account here, except for the Guthin's helmet and these two pieces of ARMs. I'm at 13k or 1300 Barrows KC. I do believe the high score for Iron Man Barrows KC is 8,000. And I might just try to get a high score at some point, but it would definitely take some time. So I realized, well, I haven't tried it yet, but I realized that you can probably get away with cheesing the Barrows chests KC to where you wouldn't even need to fight chest and open it. That would net you a lot of Barrows KC in a short time frame. However, it would be kind of boring in my opinion. But I might just go ahead and try it for a little while and see if it's something that I can tolerate, as it still would take quite a bit of time. I go for 86% two skeletons and a slug to get the most runes. If you go over 86%, you have the potential to get Carol's bolt racks, which, believe it or not, will reduce the amount of runes you get. You see that graphical artifact there, that projectile that got launched downward. That I found is actually a graphical bug from the animation smoothing, I believe. I like to melee carols to save on runes. I think maging carols might be better DPS. But we gotta spend runes to make runes here. This hilt I'm holding is a very good item here at Barrows because it completely nullifies the prayer drain mechanic that happens. As you can see here, this base will appear and it would have drained like 10 prayer points. And it does that like every 20 to 30 seconds, I believe. So that's pretty much a must. I actually went ahead and grinded out myself this here twin flame staff. just for Barrows. It's really good since Barrows have a weakness to air spells, and this Twin Flame Staff does further bonus damage to enemies with this elemental weaknesses. Down into the fray we go. We'll go find Guthin real quick and ignore these guys. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna make a lot of Barrows videos, since this is my favorite content in the game. The burn damage on that Arcan Blade is pretty awesome. As you saw, I was just able to leave that room because I knew the skeleton would die, and that kind of saves time. Now I'm actually gonna go over 86, as you can see there. So let's see if we get bolt racks. We didn't. This pool is great compared to the pool at the Ferox Enclave, cause that pool in your house restores your spec and also lets you keep your boosts. I would say this Arcan Blade is probably better than a DDS. So, but sometimes I'll still bring a DDS here just because I like the DDS. How it's really old school. I think I have something like 500 Barrows KC on my main account that I don't play anymore. And I would actually alch big stacks of dragon plate legs in between ticks of attacking. You can just barely fit an alch in between a spell cast. And of course, you can alch while you're running. because I don't have big stacks of elks. Just smaller ones, like 20 rune plate legs and 20 rune helmets. Like, I don't care to bring all that and fill up all these slots. And of course, it's nice to just chill and do some Barrows. The melee prayer does help against Barak a little bit. I think it reduces his damage by 50% when his special effect triggers, where he can hit you through prayer sometimes. You can get strange old lockpicks, they're called, and you would be able to go through these locked doors, which would speed up your run significantly. I used those on my main because I could just buy them on the GE, but on my iron I would have to grind them out in the hollowed sepulcher, and I haven't messed around with that yet to see how easy it is to get them, but I have a feeling it wouldn't really be doable on an iron. Getting a bunch of them on an iron might take a long time. We'll just let him burn, I guess. Sweet. 86. I think the average rate that you can get a Barrows item is like 1 in 14 when you kill all the brothers. Would have been really cool, I bet, messing around at Barrows when it first dropped in like 2005, I think. But I hear it was very challenging back in those days. as old school RuneScape has updated it with a lot of quality of life changes over time. For example, we now get a teleport directly here instead of having to run through that swamp that decomposes a lot of your food in your inventory by the time you even get here. I was gonna try to experience that update in OSRS, which is a simulation of what it would be like to play the game back then, but in modern times. But my account got perm banned. Before the update dropped. I'm pretty sure it did drop already. This mini game here gives me Skyrim vibes. I think because there's a lot of dungeons in Skyrim that kind of have, aesthetics like this. That's Guthan right there, and his armor set effect is pretty cool. I definitely want to finish that set out so I can do some nice AFK Slayer, as his set gives you passive healing over time, which would be good to preserve prayer potions. You can hop in and out of these doors to roll some new monsters if you haven't killed the ones you needed yet. Only bad thing about this pool I found is that it doesn't turn your prayer off when you drink from it, like the one in the Ferox Enclave does. So sometimes I'll we save the spec for Carol. So, one thing I did on my main that I really enjoyed was I messed around with bringing range void to spec out Arams with the dragon knives spec, which I gotta say is super satisfying. So hopefully I can get some dragon knives on my Iron Man here so I can recreate what I was doing. So honestly, the dragon knife specs were probably on par with dragon claws. And you can poison them too. Not that it really matters, since usually he'll die before poison would even tick. This is the first PVM content that I started with that kind of got me into PVM a bit more. I think the only reason I gave this a shot on my main back then was probably because it's pretty good money, GP an hour, and also it's nostalgic from back in the day. I never played it back when I first started this game as a kid, as I was just really didn't have the capabilities to play the game at a high level. But I remember all the high level rich players would do Barrows. They were always saying how that's how they got rich and stuff. %. this rune light plugin really helps. Saves a lot of time, it's a must. Sometimes some really wacky things can happen when you open a Barrows chest. Sometimes you'll get more than one Barrows item. And I've heard of people getting like 3 or 4 in one chest, which of course is super rare. I think the most I've ever gotten was 2 items, and I think it might have happened twice on my main anyway. I also, on my main, found that I could get a lot of elite clue scrolls from the Barrows chest really quickly, but I don't really do that on my iron. Elites aren't really on my agenda. The rewards aren't really enticing to me, but, well, I wouldn't do elites on my main either. I would just use the elites along with the other tiers of clue scrolls to create a master clue. Yeah, I did a few master clues on my main. That was pretty fun, but just really hard clues and medium clues are really the only ones that I find are necessary on an iron, because mediums can give you ranger boots and hearts can give you blessed d'hide items. I could really use a blessed d'hide shield, as well as ranger boots. $148 mediums and 90 hearts completed. I did get really lucky and I got shackles at before I got my dragon boots, so that was cool. I was able to rock those for a while. I got wizard boots too. So that was on the ranger boots drop table, I think, as well as the shackles. I usually just head to Barrows to get myself a bunch of medium glues. I think that's also how I would get my hard glues the fastest. But once I get my thieving level higher, I might try thieving like gnomes, as I think they give clue scrolls. Well, I think I'm gonna call this video I don't log off until I get a Barrows item. On my main, I really enjoyed trying out different spec weapons on Arams. It gave me a lot of incentive to grind, like Elite Void and ranged levels and stuff to try stuff out. My dream setup on my iron here, I think, is really cool. It's in terms of the magic switch, it's a harmonized nightmare staff with a occult necklace, a rune hilt, and a Saradomin cape. It looks pretty good. When I mocked it up on the weapon and gear replacer plugin, you can see what it would look like. I took a picture of it on my phone, and then also getting the blue phoenix from Winter Todd Pet would look pretty cool. Cosmetically, but the hardest part of all that is, man, I'm telling you, that harmonized nightmare staff seems like it would be quite a chore to get. I can't just buy it off the GE like I did on my main. And I haven't even tried out the Nightmare yet, because it just honestly looks horrible, and that's what I hear from most players don't like it. But I might just go for it because I love the harm so much. I would also need to grind out like 95 rune crafting so I can make myself wrath runes, so I can cast Wind Surge. That would be super cool. I also had a really funny idea. If I got myself a harm, it would be funny to go to pest control and autocast Wind Strike with my harmonized Nightmare Staff. I think that would be hilarious and players would get a kick out of that. It'd be interesting to see how much DPS you could do with Wind Strike and like max gear. He's not even attacking me. Oh, he was. I guess his animation was bugged or something. Guess I could bring my Bone Crusher, but it really wouldn't yield that much XP over time, yeah. I remember seeing a lot of Barrows bots on my main when I was using House Party Worlds to get around the construction level requirements to make a nice house setup. Those bots must utilize House Party Worlds to get that advantage of all the utilities of a house, a max level house. nuts. You know. Turns out these here bosses are not classified as undead, so the South Amulet will not work here, unfortunately. Apparently, they are considered spectral. I guess I don't understand the nuance, but it sure would seem like they should be weak to the South. You never know. Jagex might change that, as they seem to, over time, make these older PVM bossing encounters easier by implementing, now they're weak to air. You got the hilt now. Strange old lockpicks. Bunch of quality of life / power creep stuff going on. Probably because they're releasing harder PVM content all the time. They have to make these older PVM encounters a little easier over time. Strange old lockpick isn't too big of a deal, as I can just find my 2 skeletons and 1 slug on my way to the chest. I was so happy when I got a hold of my whip. It was a big moment on the iron account. I started with like 700 blood runes, and now we're almost at double. just go straight down in there. And just run to the chest, honestly. You know, it does seem kind of cheesy speedrunning Barrows in that way. But honestly, when it comes down to speedrunning, it's all about getting the lowest times anyway. And a lot of times with speedrunning, you intentionally try to find bugs and glitches to just eliminate whole entire portions of the game. So honestly, I probably wouldn't feel too bad doing that and getting a high score, as it's likely that other players don't find doing that Man, before I started actually playing this game as it's intended, like I'm doing now, I would really goof off a lot. Like, for example, I guess I was just so bored that, like, one day I decided to go on one of those house party worlds where you see the most people running Barrows. I would go there and like do stupid things like dress up in all purple and like hide in the corner. And just watch people go in and spec errands. That reminds me, even though I'm an iron and I have my house set up for Barrows, I still enjoy going on house party worlds just to fight Barrows alongside other players. I enjoy how you see so much diversity in terms of gear loadouts people are using. It's fun to watch people spec ARMs, like I said, and so I do believe I wanna go experience that. So we'll just hop on over to. Usually when I do this, the world is full, but I guess not this time of day. You can see everyone just has completely different gear. It's awesome. This guy has a dragon hunter wand. That might be a bot, but I don't know. I do remember the bots always used magic short bows. I think we're on errands. See, I just love this. Is why I love coming on this world. I think he's doing a challenge. That's definitely not a bot then. Doing a combat achievement thing. Probably trying to go for the hilt. The hilt. We're gonna go find errands here. I'm also seriously considering trying out Theater of Blood, even though I really haven't tried out any endgame content like that. I just think it'd be really cool to oops. Sometimes it gets a little overstimulating in here with all the players all over the place. That's wind surge right there. Just an absolute beautiful animation. So cool. And then of course, you know, you're gonna be in that situation where I was, where someone already tagged that mob, so I didn't get the kill for it, but that's okay, I don't really mind. See, we got some bolt racks there, because we went a little overboard with our potential. But I am not considering that a Barrows item, so we are going to keep on grinding. I do in fact use these. They're good on an iron. The Carol's crossbow is actually pretty stellar. Nice budget Slayer weapon there, you know. Oh man. I even came down here with obby throwing rings one time, just 'cause you just never see anyone playing with those. And of course, they really weren't too good in terms of DPS for their cost. But I just love cool weapons like those, you know. I definitely make sure to try them out when I can, that's that's for sure. Where are we? We're in Carroll, okay. I get a little lost sometimes when I'm playing on this world. I just love watching other players. You know, their take on Barrows. You know, there's so much diversity here. It's actually how I discovered the whole door spamming method to generate new mobs. I think it was probably a bot doing it actually, but I was like, well, that's smart. So I'll do that every once in a while, especially when I'm right at the chest, so I don't have to run and find mobs. The ones that I need to kill, I'll just keep going in and out of that main chamber there. Dahirok there, he's the one that's probably the most likely to kill you, I would have to say. 'Cause let me tell you what, if you're not watching your prayer and you run out when he's at low health, I mean, he'll slap you hard. I suppose Barak could probably slip a kill on you if you're out of food and you're trying to just squeak on by. He'll hit you through your prayer. Yeah, I think I did all the combat achievements here. You saw that one guy safe spotting Arams behind his coffin with a dwarf multi-cannon. I think he was doing possibly, it's been so long, but I think you have to like kill all the Barrows brothers without taking any damage at all. So I'm thinking that's what he was doing. I personally used Ice Barrage for that challenge. I'm gonna be safe and just keep my protect melee on for when Dahirok spawns, just like that. Like if my prayer dropped right now and he hit me, his max is pretty high, so like a player with, you know, health in the 60s or 70s could easily wipe right there. I'll just leave piety on. Chill out, you know. He's tagged, but you know what? Let's see if I still get the kill. He had like 2 HP missing. Nope, I didn't. Now we dog, I think. Sweet. Alright, let's see what we get. More blood runes. Well, I think these stats will suffice, so we'll save some potions and such a good spec weapon. I don't think it has quite the same appeal as like a DDS, but I would say the sheer DPS it puts out is well worth the upgrade. Funny enough, I was considering grinding out a Dragon Hunter wand like this guy has for this, but funny enough, the Twin Flame staff came out before I was able to acquire the wand, so I changed gear and went for this, as it's a little better, I think. But I did end up getting the Dragon Hunter wand, and the main reason was because it can auto cast ancient magic. So, and you get a plus 10 damage bonus, so it would be my best in slot for auto casting ancient magics, like on Slayer tasks and stuff. But I found, of course, it's also really great at using it's better than the Twin Flame staff when you're maging dragons, which is good because that's kind of the whole point of a Dragon Bane weapon. I'll just, whenever I get a metal dragon task, I'll just go and crank out a few steel dragons with my wand. They're weak to earth spells, so it's a pretty quick task. Get yourself some dragon bones, and they might even have a chance to drop the visage, which would be huge for an iron. But I think Vorkath would probably be the more realistic way to get that. let me tell you what, if I ever get dragon knife drop, I think the minimum amount of knives you can get in one drop would be like 100 or so. I'm definitely gonna just go ahead and grind out a assembler to save on those when I come down to mess around with them at Barrows. There's our skeleton. And this crypt rat's probably gonna attack us. Yeah. So we just gonna keep trying to find a slug. Oops. Bloodworm, rather. There we go. Sweet, there's our 86. Let's... Well, sometimes it's just how it goes. Was always curious how maybe a glaive, well, they didn't end up naming it a glaive, but I think it's the tonsicle something of Barrows. It looks pretty awesome. It's like a throwing disc, like your obby Czar throwing disc, but it has spikes on it, and it's designed to lower high defense monsters, and it works really good when they have like a high magic defense, I think, or magic. But I hear it's not that good of a weapon for how hard it is to get. But man, that would be fun to use on Arims. It just looks cool, you know. Just wish it was more effective places, I suppose. Probably it would be good for giant mole, I would think. Yeah. I still don't have my ballista yet. I think we're nearing double the drop rate for it now. But hey, it's good incentive to train Slayer, you know. Zenites never hurts, I suppose. Man, I swear I coulda remembered it like a time way back in the day. It was like not a meme, but there was rumors that a RuneScape movie was gonna come out or something. And I don't know if, like, Jagex was seriously contemplating making a RuneScape movie or not, but just kind of a funny thought, you know. Could have just been a rumor. Of course, that would be a real it'd probably be a fairly low budget movie, and the odds of it being any good probably be pretty low, and really probably the only people that would enjoy it or consider watching it would be RuneScape players, of course, as it's kind of a neat niche thing, you know. But hey, you never know. That movie could have dropped and, you know, hit the top 10 or whatever and brought a bunch of new players in. You just never know. Alright. Wait till that potential goes up and nothing. But our blood runes are slowly rising, which is the main reason I'm here. I have a Necreal Slayer task. Oops. You're supposed to leave it lowercase. There we go. Necreal Slayer task, so I'm just gonna breeze through it with my ice barrage. But I need to probably get a few more runes to be safe. Well, I made that mistake I was talking about earlier where I left my prayer on. So we're just gonna scoot on back to the house, and this will be okay because now we can spec out carols. So I'm fine with that when that happens. you what. Well, first, specking out Arims. Like, there were a few times where I swear I only hit him once, like with one spec, and he was down, you know. Like, this guy has a cooking cape on and like a ornamented rune shield. It's just so cool to see, man. Blood bark and a Slayer helm with a fang. Funny thing that I did one time was I actually managed to beat Barrows with a dragon harpoon as my weapon in full, you know, like angler, fishing trawler gear. Yeah, I would run in there and deploy the dragon harpoon spec, you know, and sit there for like 20 minutes until each brother died, poking it with a harpoon. I believe it took an entire inventory of prayer pots. And you better believe I did it on the house party world so people could see. I'll do silly things like that all the time, like pest control too. I'll run in there with a full fishing setup and like drop raw fish all over the place, and believe it or not, you can beat pest control easily just stabbing monsters and portals with a harpoon. You can keep your potential up easily. Of course, your other players probably wouldn't be too fond of you doing that, as you're wasting so much DPS and time for them in a way. But you can beat pest control just by punching, you know, bringing nothing. You just need to keep your contribution up by doing a little bit of damage, you know. Another funny thing I would do is I would enter in like a Temperos game when I was grinding out Temperos. I would get bored, you know, so I would bring a bunch of the item called Smelly Socks. It's just a funny item you can collect in bulk behind Staff's staff shop. I would bring, like, for example, I would bring like 2 socks, smelly socks, and I would just drop them right on the beach. And I would get a lot of funny reactions because it kind of looks like, you know, someone got their socks knocked off by the wave special attack. Just too much goofing around I seem to do in this game. Well, I'm getting a tingle, and the tingle tells me we're gonna get a piece of Barrows gear in this run. It does seem like we've completed roughly 14 runs. I did some test runs before the video too, so didn't get anything in those test runs. Yeah, the biggest thing that detracts me from endgame content is just the learning curve, you know, like raids. There's just so much to them that, you know, it's like you have to do a whole study session to figure out what you need to be doing when you go in there. And I've watched Wooks's tutorial on Chambers of Zarek. You probably have seen the video, as it's considered like an unintentional ASMR. I've watched that many times and I still, you know, can't grasp my head around all the different mechanics, like things. Something about crabs, you know, like, I don't know. I just part of me, I think, kind of hoped that subliminally, while I was sleeping and listening to that, I would learn, you know, like, after the 50th time I've watched it, you'd think I would subliminally learn, but no. Turns out it doesn't work like that. Just get our spec weapon ready here, and we'll just break down a bunch of doors looking for a Carol. See, again, just how it goes, you know, it's not really used. It's not really used anywhere. You don't really see anyone using the helmet. I think it looks really... Oops, I went the wrong way. I think it looks really awesome on female characters, because it's like, it looks so big in proportion to their bodies. I like the Thorac plate legs the best for my tank leg slot item. Alright, well, like I said, this is I definitely feel that we're gonna get a piece of the Barrows gear this time, surely. We've been put through some trouble because I went the wrong way, so hopefully that increases our odds. Let's just get an Aram rope top here. Nope. I'm gonna need to sometime. There you go, there's some drip. That gasket there, I love that item. That's reminds me of that character on Naruto that has something going on like that. Seems like Carol's defense is higher than Aram's melee defense. But I don't think it shows that on the score, on the data card. I think Carol's is supposed to be weak in comparison to melee, but it just doesn't seem that way. It honestly seems like mage does more damage, which in terms of the combat triangle doesn't really make sense. Well, this just might be a long video. See how I'm getting defense XP there. I'll show you it again. defense XP. And you can do that by selecting this option here. And funny enough, if you select, this combat style, it doesn't give you anything like any more magic attack bonus or anything. However, this gives you defense XP on top of what it's already giving you, so you might as well use this, is what I found. And not only will it give you defense XP, but it'll of course give you a bit of a boost to your natural defense. I think it's just an oversight by Jagex or something. This should give you more like a magic attack bonus, you would think. So, go spec Arams here and just get ourselves his gear in the chest afterwards, of course. I could just play this all day, this mini game. We haven't gotten a Barrows item yet, and funny enough, when we do, it probably won't be one of the 3 that we need. Just how the odds play out, you know, kind of thing. Well, we need a slug, so I'll just try to get a slug aggroed on me, or a bloodworm rather. There we go. And that'll be my potential. Nope. Grumble undead. You see, he has an abyssal dagger. Wow. I don't quite like the appearance of that compared to the DDS. It just looks way too big and detailed, you know. So, in my book, it just kinda sucks that it's a higher tier than the DDS, I guess. Thing I don't like about the dragon claws, though, for a spec weapon here, is that it's two-handed, so you would have to re-equip saving a little bit of prayer. I started here with an Iban staff. It's kind of fun working your way up the weapon tiers. Pretty sure you can't use the Iban staff unless you finish the underground pass quest. Or maybe you can't, like, upgrade it or something until then. Iban staff to a warped scepter is how my progression went. Man, that warp scepter animation is absolutely sick. Yeah. I think it just really showcases, it just makes the spell that it shoots seem more significant and powerful when the animation involves your character needing to shield their eyes from the intense magic spell that it shoots. It kind of reminds me of, I used to play modded Skyrim, and one of the mods that I played with was awesome. It added like thousands of new custom spells to the game, and I'm not talking like pardon my language, but these spells were not half-assed. They really made them high quality and used a lot of creativity. For example, one of the spells was called, I can't remember what it was called, but you literally shoot a flow of lava that interacts around the terrain. Like, it'll go over rocks and stuff. It's really cool. But the one that I was really looking forward to, that I seen, I've never seen the animation to it. All I knew was it was called again, I can't remember the name of the spell, but the description said shoots a giant flaming sun. Now that just sounds awesome. So I was trying to grind that out, but turns out I got into a crash loop, so I had to abandon that save file. there was some other crazy stuff like world fire, like shoots a big wave of fire that crashes down on the enemy. There were spells involving like big bungee stakes that would emerge from the ground underneath the enemy, and you could summon giant walls to block damage, walls of stone that would emerge from the ground. It was just really awesome. Most of the time you just play like a stealth archer because it's the best, it's the meta, but they did a good job on making magic viable and more interesting. I think there was a spell that summoned a giant spirit bear that you could ride. I mean, there were whole categories of books that pertain to certain, there was a whole class of books that all just pertain to spirit summoning or whatever. Spells that would, one of them was called, I think, Spirit Bolt or something, and you would shoot an arrow out of your hand, a ghostly arrow out of your hand. And of course it pairs well with the vanilla spells that are in the game pertaining to spirit summoning, summon spirit bow. Thing is awesome. I better go get some food as I ran out, just in case Varak puts a number on me. Man, it would be so fun to have creative freedom as a developer in this game to create new items and weapons and things. I have all kinds of cool ideas. And I'm not talking about I have a large volume of ideas, but more of solid, well thought out weapons and things that would fit really well into the game and wouldn't just be added clutter. straight shot to the chest containing an Aram's hood, an Aram's rope skirt, and a Guthan's helm all in one. Of course. But even when I fill out all my Barrows items, I'm still gonna come here because I like it so much. I wonder how much money I've made here in terms of GE value. Let's check. $86 mil. You know how it goes on an iron though. I elked all this, so I didn't. This is the GE value, so I got nowhere near that amount on return. Probably should got some food, but whatever. You can just tele away from here and come back and continue where you left off. So, as I mentioned, I've played a lot of Barrows on crowded worlds, and something that happens a lot is you'll have your Arams will be right on top of a bunch of other players' Arams, or well, any brother, and when it won't be on right on top, like your boss won't be right on top. It'll always be the second from the top for some reason. So if there's ever more than one on the same tile, you'll have to select the second from the top. The shadow staff is probably the best mage weapon for this minigame, but I don't, even if I one day got that for some reason as a drop, honestly, I don't think I would use it. I don't care for the aesthetic of it. The name, nothing really about it appeals to me. Interesting little graphical bug or oddity there. Yeah, the harmonized nightmare staff is like, that would be my jam. course, the shadow's better, but in my book, the nightmare staff is just way cooler. So that's what I would like to use. I would just straight up give that shadow to my main and convert it to bonds, to be completely honest. Probably sounds ridiculous, but the big part of this game is the visuals to me. You know, I mean, look at that weapon. I am never gonna replace this weapon with a fang, cause the fang just looks really dumb to me. It just looks like it's all bent and like you tried stabbing a brick wall and it just bent. But the Grazier Rapier, now that I wouldn't mind having on my iron, I will say. We officially hit the 2-hour mark and still don't have a Barrows item to show for it. I would absolutely love to mess around with the Amulet of the Damned. It boosts Barrow equipment set effects, but it seemingly doesn't look worth the grind on an iron. And worst part is, it's consumable, so you'd have to keep re-obtaining it. That's kind of a big complaint amongst the player base, is they refer to it as charge escape, when Jagex just keeps releasing weapons and items that take charges and just make it tedious for no reason. Oops. Better put on my melee gear. That's 86. Nope. easier to obtain, but I just have so many anglers. I'll bring 3 just in case for some reason we get 5 Barrows items in one chest. You just never know. Alright. Melee is very nice for saving resources. You don't need arrows or runes. Oops. Now the grind truly starts. Coffee's getting cold, but that's okay because I like iced coffee anyway. Well, if I keep going dry, I might just run out of coffee. The first game I ever played was Super Mario World on the Super Nintendo. Just a great game in general. Along with that, I played Donkey Kong Country 2. And Fatal Fury, which is like kind of a knockoff of Street Fighter, except, well, I think one of the main developers that worked on Street Fighter did contribute to it. Oops, didn't mean to spec the rat. For some reason, this mouse absolutely gets destroyed when I'm grinding demonic gorillas for some reason. Oh, we'll just kill this skeleton. I think it's all the reorienting of the camera, like I'm doing now, that wears out the middle mouse button. Almost thought I got a item there. Yeah, it's just weird because right now I feel like I'm using the middle mouse button a lot, but for some reason when I go to demonic gorillas it's weird. Well, if the video just cuts off randomly, that means my hard drive ran out of space, which is pretty crazy. I'm pretty surprised I haven't gotten a drop yet. But if that happens, I'll just have to try to free up some space and edit the video segments together. Because if you've been watching this video this whole time, you probably would like the satisfaction of actually seeing a drop. Well, hopefully we get it within 3 hours from now, because I have to go to an appointment. as well just kill this one too. Well, that might be really rare. Let me just check that out. That drop rate out on the wiki. That okay. Barrows chest. What am I looking at here? So, oh, well, I guess it's not as rare as I thought. It's just, it's like twice as common as a regular Barrows item. Well, it's cool to see nonetheless. But unfortunately, I would have to say that does not count as a Barrows item. So back into the fray we go. Right. I didn't expect that, I will say. I don't remember that being on the drop table. Well, I would have to say my health has officially started to deteriorate from this grind, as I have just ran out of coffee and I'm starting to get a little hot, but I can't turn on the fan as it would ruin the audio. Also, I kinda have to pee. Again, the drop rate is, I should be getting on average one Barrows item for every 14 chests opened. I'm not sure how many we've opened, but it sure seems like we're going a little dry. But maybe, just maybe, it will all work out in the end, just get ourselves a double chest. Or like back-to-back Barrows items or something to make up for this. It's pretty cool that they added spell elemental weaknesses so that you see a wider variety. You see a use for all these other elemental spells other than just the highest tier fire spell. I do think the wind wave looks pretty cool, but it just always had that stigma of being the weakest. Okay, I am starting to lose my roll a little bit here. There we go. We finally got something. That's cool, because it was a sort of a back-to-back in a way. It's something we already had, but good God, I guess I'm happier that we finally can put a close to this video so I can go and take a piss and rehydrate and things. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope you will come back for some more.